grab, and he's going to be sacked.
All right, Broncos country, what's going on? A little bit earlier of a horsepower hour today due to some scheduling stuff going on. Thank you all for joining. We got some beautiful news to discuss with you guys. Of course, all my friends are here. Jeremy, Kodiak, Mark. Man, I'm excited. Let's just get into it, right, guys? First freaking segment. J.K. Dobbins has officially joined with the Broncos, $2.745 million guaranteed. He's got another $2.5 million in incentives. So the deal can be worth up to $5.25 million for this year. It's amazing. We'll start with Kodiak and then we'll work our way around the square. How are you feeling about this, man? Again, thanks for joining.
Yeah, of course. Thank you all for being here today. I'm feeling really, really good about it because I said after the draft that there realistically was only one more running back that I thought could have been a difference maker for the team. I didn't really want to be reaching into the depths of like the Nick Chubbs and the Jamal Williams of the world because realistically, what could they have provided for us that we didn't have last year with Javonte Williams, where you just kind of have like a reliable but not really a very dynamic runner whatsoever. But now with J.K. Dobbins, you are getting a much more dynamic runner than pretty much anybody was who else was available in the running back pool this offseason as far as the veteran free agents. I think Dobbins was my second preferred, running back target of all the free agent running backs. Obviously, Najee was number one, but he was not available. So, yeah, ultimately, I feel really, really good about this. And I'm really, really excited. Really, really excited. And J.K. Dobbins was not supposed to be a Bear. No, you're going to watch DeAndre Swift get 200 touches this year, and you're going to like it.
Dude, beautiful, man. Well said. Mark, or Jeremy.
Yeah, I was taking a nap before I just heard my phone going ding, 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 ding. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to have to change one of my questions because that was one of my questions. J.K. Dobbins did sign. I had a feeling it was going to happen. You never know when people leave the building and then don't sign in the process, but it just felt like the right place. I think they just needed to work some stuff out. But yeah, as much if we give somebody a bad nickname, it seems to be like, okay, and then they're coming. With Jello Knees. But it's not a bad nickname. It was it's a loving nickname. But no, I'm excited. I think that's a perfect compliment. I think that's kind of what their room needs. And I think that's, when you draft somebody like RJ Harvey to get a veteran in there to kind of show them the ropes, I think that's perfect. So no, it was a good signing for sure.
About you, Mark?
Yeah, man. How can you not be excited about J.K. Dobbins signing? I think it makes sense in every way. All you're doing is raising the floor of a running back room, which is very, very important because we think the ceiling can be really high with RJ, right? I still believe in, what Estimate can show. I still really am excited about seeing what Blake Watson can do. So those guys have potential to have a high ceiling, but you needed somebody that was just going to be solid. And specifically in pass pro, I know everybody talks about like how dynamic of a runner he is when he is healthy, but he is one of the best pass protecting running backs in the entire NFL, and he doesn't fumble the ball, so you know what you're going to get. He's somebody that just makes a whole bunch of sense. So it's awesome, and it's great to be in a position now in Broncos country where you can you're in talent adding mode. Right? Instead of just trying to build out your depth or trying to develop your young guys, which is always important. I think we always need to continue to do that. But now you can take flyers on guys like this because they wanted to come here. I don't know why JK would have wanted to go anywhere else of other teams that were interested because he obviously has the best opportunity, but we could also be really, really good. So I'm all about it, man. I think it's a great signing for sure.
I think that I got to look at the cap number, but I think that we should still, with Damari Mathis eventually being cut, I think we should still have over $10 million of cap space that we could roll over into next year. I think, man, this is great. And I got to ask you guys about this. You alluded to it a little bit, Mark, but I want to go around the horn and get your guys' take. Week 1, who is our starting running back this year? And who are the other backs that are part of the 53? So I'll go last with this one. Kodiak, I want to put you on the spot. Who's the starting running back week 1 for our Denver Broncos? Who rounds out the backfield on the active roster?
All right. So if you're just asking me like who's going to start in this room, obviously I expect it to be a committee type approach. You don't want to put, even though you spent a second round pick on RJ Harvey, you don't really want to put a whole lot on his plate, especially early on. And that's why this Dobbins signing is so impactful in more ways than one. But as far as like who I do think if you look at what Sean Payton has a tendency to do, he does have a tendency to be rather conservative with his rookies. And, you know, if there is a guy who he has to play, he will, as we saw with Knicks last year. But, you know, even going back to 2017, I don't think Kamara got a lot of run until like week 5 or whatever. So I do expect Dobbins to get at least the majority of the work for like at least the first month or so. And that's when we can really see Harvey ramp up. But I still expect it, you know, Harvey to get his fair share of touches. And as far as like the other running backs on the team, I mean, there's a lot of guys competing for spots. Like Estime, this is kind of a message to him, like, hey, you got to earn it, especially above Jaleel McLaughlin. This is a message to Jaleel saying the same thing. Blake Watson, Bidet, some other guys throwing the mix in there as well. But I do think as far as I don't know if they're going to carry 4 running backs. I wouldn't really expect them to. But if you're asking me who I think the third running back will be, I think assuming Estime has a good offseason, since they actually spent a draft pick on him, and any team that actually puts investment into players will give them the first chance to show, you know, what they can do. I think Estime is going to be the RB3. And that's not to say that there couldn't potentially be a role for Jaleel. But, I mean, hope is not a strategy, but I am kind of putting some hope into this one that Estime will show enough to at least be given the third roster spot.
Yeah, if I'm going to go next, I'll say the term starter is kind of always like who's the first person that walked out on the first snap, but it really is like who's going to get the majority of the snaps. I still think it's going to be RJ. I think Dobbins is in for specific situations, maybe pass protection while they're getting him up to ramping RJ up for the pass protection. But yeah, I just think RJ is still going to be the number one guy. Man, this is tough because now it comes down to Jaleel or Audric as your third back. I think I'm with Mike here. I just think I think they like Jaleel more, but Audric he's the one that has the most to prove. I think, you know, obviously this whole offseason or training camp and all that's going to really be the battle. It's going to be who's our RB3, and Blake Watson will probably be practice squad again, but same with, you know, Bidet. So yeah, I tend to agree with Mike. I think it's going to be those 3. RJ is going to get the bulk, I think, from the jump.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's the RJ Harvey show. Let's not forget about that. Sean Payton absolutely loves this dude. Apparently, he's been killing it in camp. He's going to get every opportunity. He'll get a majority of the snaps as long as he's healthy. I think it's going to be at like 60-40 split probably. I think no doubt about it, it'll be RJ. I really wouldn't be surprised. This might sound crazy, but like there's so many things that can happen because it's such a and it's going to be a super exciting room to talk about. But like I wouldn't be surprised if J.K. Dobbins was the lead back. I wouldn't be surprised if J.K. Dobbins didn't make the team. That's the kind of, you know, I can see it. Like I think it's an extremely low chance that he doesn't make the team. But you always, when you're factoring out rounding out the running back room, you cannot forget special teams. You're always going to have guys that if you're the third back, you got to play teams. Can Audric Estime play special teams? I think he can. If he can't, then he's probably going to have a hard time, you know, making the roster, at least being a game day, an active player on game day. I think, but for me, like right now, I think it's going to be R.J. Harvey. I think J.K. Dobbins. I think Audric Estime will be your top three. And then you'll always, you'll be able to have Tyler Bidet and maybe Blake Watson, but probably, I don't think you can even put Jaleel on practice squad. So you probably have Tyler Bidet on practice squad in case you need to elevate someone. And then Blake Watson could be like a sneaky fourth guy that can make the team. We could go into the season with 4 running backs because Blake Watson can kind of give you a little bit of everything. If you play teams, I think he could be a return guy if you need him to. And so that's how I think it's going to be shaping out. I would be pretty surprised at this point. It breaks my heart because I love Jaleel, but I'd be pretty surprised if he makes the team at this point. I just don't see any reason for him. Like, what you have in him. Hard-working dude. Like, I genuinely do love the guy and I root for him. I just think it's way too crowded right now.
Yeah, I think right now, J.K. Dobbins will kind of be used as that third down back, pass protecting. I still think I got this feeling that the first guy taking the snap out there week 1 is going to be R.J. Harvey. But I think ideally, like you guys have kind of said, we get a nice little split between him and J.K. Dobbins. That's where we'll feel so much more comfortable with this backfield, is having both of them get consistent carries. Now, I've started to teeter back on this a little bit over the last few days. Now I'm thinking about it like, let's say we are carrying 5 edges into game day every single week, right? With Q Robinson. 6 wide receivers on the 53, given Trent Sherfield, right? I mean, that rounds out. That means A.T. Perry. I mean, he wouldn't make the team, which would just be devastating. If we carry 7 wide receivers, I mean, we're definitely not carrying 4 running backs. So right now, I still can't quit Audric Estime. I believe in him so much. I think he's got huge hands. He should not have issues holding on to the ball, and he should be fine in the passing game if there are areas in which we need to pass the ball to him. But I agree, Mark. I mean, you can have guys like Blake Watson and Tyler Bidet ready to elevate when needed. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Jaleel McLaughlin. I do wonder if he's going to be a case in which the Broncos do try and showcase during preseason to kind of get rid of him. Sorry. And maybe Jaleel, man, maybe this is finally the year in which he kind of puts it together a little bit more, shows a little bit more well-rounded skill set. But, similar to Phillip Lindsay, I think that one-dimensional backs, he's a little bit different than Phillip Lindsay, but they're not for long in the NFL if you can't develop that full skill set. And that's kind of how I feel about Jaleel right now. So might be a little bit shorter of a first quarter, but those are really the questions that I wanted to ask you guys about J.K. Dobbins. Does anybody else have any other thoughts on the running back room right now?
Well, I think one thing, I want to highlight what Andy was saying there because I agree with a lot of it. I mean, when you're talking about, like, for me, and I guess my question to Broncos country and obviously you guys is when you look at J.K. Dobbins, right, and you understand his injury history, I mean, it's almost like a foregone conclusion. He's probably going to miss some time. He's not going to play 17 games. It'd be awesome if he does. So let's say you get 10 games out of him. Wouldn't you rather those 10 games be in November and December than early in the year? And so when I look at it, like, I'm fine if we started off the season and JK was like a game day inactive, right? I don't know how he'd feel about it. But, like, I'd be fine with it because, I don't know, J.K. Dobbins, he's probably not going to play special teams. You can just have him, in the background, hanging out, chilling, being with the guys. Like, he'll bring the vet presence in the locker room and off the field. And then if at any point in the season you need him due to injury, you know what you've got in him, and you want him to be strong at the end of the year. That's the ideal setup for me. Like, I know everyone would like to see him early, but I'd rather have him, balling out down the stretch than, he's killing it in September and October, and then we miss him for a month. So, I mean, it might be hard for a lot of Bronco fans to swallow that, but I think that would be that would work really well. And then, what Andy had said here is, yeah, that's what makes it tough for Jaleel, because if we went with an RJ and JK backfield with Jaleel as the third guy, one of those guys goes down, Jaleel's very limited in his skill set. He can't really pass pro. He's a small back, but he can't really catch the ball to the backfield. So there's not much that he can do. Whereas Estime, you feel like, he can do a lot more. So, that would be the big thing. But I want to know you guys' thoughts on that in terms of, J.K. Dobbins is like what he can bring to the team when you're factoring in the entirety of the season.
So I just want to begin this by saying I think it'd be really, really I just don't think it makes us better to deactivate him or something for the first month or two of the season. Although I do agree with what you're saying that, if he does, take a little bit of time to ramp up or whatever, and that we'd rather have him for the playoff push, I don't entirely disagree with that. But then at that point, I would rather just stagger his workload. Maybe you use Harvey more early on, then you can, I don't know, make it more of a split backfield and you see how that goes. But yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. But yeah, I definitely would rather have Dobbins for those big games. We need him for those games where we can sustain a run game. We can get those possession-oriented wins, which is what the NFL is shifting towards. And that's something that I've talked about a lot this offseason that I want to see the Broncos be more consistent in. Last year in December, we went 3 and out on 40% of our drives. That's just not good enough. Not good enough at all. Once Bonex had that back injury and our run game completely stalled out, that just flat out was not good enough. So I don't entirely disagree with what you're saying there. But once again, I don't know. The inactive thing, I mean, that's a little spicy. I want to hear what the other guys say about it.
Yeah, and I want to be clear about it. I'm not advocating that he should be inactive. The only reason I said I can see it as a game day inactive because what Sean Payton does is he'll probably have 3 guys active on game day, but that third running back will always be able to play special teams. Mm-hmm. JK doesn't seem like just because he's a veteran back too. You don't see veteran backs ever play teams, so you just need to open up another spot. But I think what's more likely to happen is that'll be estimate would be the game day inactive. But I'm just throwing out an idea, or if you're really going to limit his carries, I'm all for that. But finding out a way for him to be fresh later on in the year, regardless of what that means, I think is more important. But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not advocating that he should be a game day inactive. I could just see that as a scenario.
Okay, that makes more sense. And I like the creativity behind that.
Well, we need him for the Super Bowl run. Sorry, go ahead, Jeremy.
Oh no, I was gonna say I agree with Mark because I think what Dobbins is, I think he's the ultimate insurance policy because he's the veteran. He's the guy who can bring him in. He doesn't fumble. Thank you, David. That's exactly right. He's not the guy that if Audrix happens to put it on the ground and you're like, okay, now you're going in the doghouse a little bit, or somebody gets banged up or whatever, that's when you want that guy. But you don't want to wear him out early. And he's also a guy who's had his own, injuries history. So I think what they're doing is they're raising the floor of the room and getting a good presence as well of somebody who can kind of oversee the young guys as they're coming up. But we start this season against teams that we should hopefully be able to handle, and you want to see where the room is. Now, if Audric has a good training camp, and same with Jaleel or whoever you end up keeping, you can maybe put Dobbins on the shelf and just say, hey, we love you. We still need you, but we're going to save you for, more important days down the road. And I could totally see that happening. I really could.
Who do we open up against again?
Tennessee. Here.
Yeah. I could totally see Sean kind of giving guys like Audric Estime a little bit more of the opportunity earlier on in the year to prove that you can be a short yardage back for us or a goal line back. And if that goes to, crap, you got J.K. Dobbins that you can utilize a little bit more. Before I finish my thought, Law Dog, we'll save your question. This is good. He wants the opinion on the Raiders this year. I got it starred. We'll get to it later on in the show. That's great. It will be fun to talk some AFC West. But yeah, with JK, I think you guys bring up a good point, which is you want this guy fresh in November, in December, in January. That was something that the Chargers, they went full Charger on. They didn't manage that well to where you couldn't really help them at the back stretch of the year. So combined with our fantastic training team that we got, again, led the league the last 2 years and least amount of injuries and missed time due to injury in the NFL, JK made a perfect decision to come here to get right, to get healthy. And yeah, if the guys can't do it, if the young guys can't do it, he's always somebody that I think should be seen as an insurance policy. But I feel so much better, man, with him in this backfield that I know we're going to have somebody that can run short yardage, that is going to be able to punch it in at the goal line. I felt like Audric kind of did that well in spurts at certain points, and then other spots not very well. And I think RJ Harvey can do it, but we just haven't seen it. So
yeah.
Yeah,
you definitely don't want, you don't want to be in a playoff game and have him go 9 carries for 26 yards like he did against Houston and, be exhausted.
Oh, for real?
So, yeah. And I feel like, listen, I feel like Sean Payton's got a really great way of messaging that to the players. Like, he could tell them, listen, our goal for you is to help us at the end of the year, not early. And you should be fine with that. And I think he can get them to buy into something like that too. So it's going to be fun to see how they end up managing that.
I think that's great. Again, guys, thank you so much. Checking out the Horsepower Hour. We're just getting started right now, but be sure, smash that like, subscribe to everybody. I hope you guys tagged my channel. I tagged all your channels in the description. So y'all go follow, subscribe, all that. We each kind of have our own little segments that we start with, whether it's talking points or little games. I think this one's a little bit more off the cuff because of J.K. Dobbins signing, but that's all I had for J.K. Dobbins. If Mark, we want to get to your section, man, let's go ahead and do it.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it. So, and I'm the second quarter again. I like being Q2. That is my favorite number, so I dig it. So this little segment that we have is going to be called Stable or Unstable. Thanks to Jeremy for the Jeremy has always got the creative names. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys a hot take. Now, I'm going to preface by saying this at first. I may believe this and I may actually not believe it. So I'll let you guys know afterwards. It might be outlandish and be like, Mark really thinks that, so don't throw me. But what I'm going to say is I'm going to say a hot take, and then I'm going to select somebody. So I'm going to say David. I'm going to say the hot take, and then I'm going to have you tell me why I'm wrong. And I have different hot takes for each and every one of you, and then we'll wrap it up with a hot take for everybody. Does that work?
That sounds great.
That's perfect.
And I tried to do this based off of things I heard you say on the channel, on your channels, or in any of our live sessions together. So we'll see. So I'm going to start with Jeremy. All right, Jeremy?
All
right. So the question, my hot take is, this is still Sean Payton's team and it's not yet Bo Nix's team. Tell me why I'm wrong.
Well, I think those kind of go hand in hand a little bit, but I agree actually with that. I think Sean Payton is still the alpha, and I still think he's the guy who is setting the tone right now. But man, he's, Bo Nix to me is like his deputy or lieutenant. You know what I mean? Like, he is, I think that's why he picked him. I think he sees him as a guy who, I'm the coach off the field, you're the coach on the field. And I just love the fact, all the stories we're hearing about Bo Nix and how, a lot of the players are saying it is Bo Nix's team. It is his, Mike McGlinchey said it I've heard it a bunch. And he just has that leadership quality. He just has that thing. When the first time I ever heard him interviewed, because I watched a bunch of tape on him, and then I was just like, oh, let me now watch some off the field. I just want to see who he is as a person. And that's when I was really like, oh, this is our guy. I love this guy. You can just tell he's mature. He's a bro. He seems like he can be a fun guy to hang out with. He's not, certain past quarterbacks who maybe had their own office somewhere, or were in their basement playing a video game or whatever. He's a guy that everybody wants to be around, but I would still say Sean is still the main alpha dog in the room, and I'm fine with that. But there's no rivalry there. I think that when Bo Nix came off the field and they got into it on the sideline, I think that was the moment when everybody goes, "This is the guy that can speak straight up to Sean and be like, hey, no, that's not right," and da-da-da-da. And then we all were like, okay, this is our dude right here.
Oh, Sean was salivating.
Oh yeah, he said it was his
So
love language.
you're not supposed to agree with me on this.
Right.
Segment.
Yeah.
I should have told you. But
yeah.
I appreciate your takes. I actually don't believe that. I think it's Bo Nix's team moving forward. I think Sean Payton's done he's done what he was supposed to do. He's changed the culture. He's broken a lot of really bad streaks. And I think now Bo Nix is going to take the leadership. And I think he wants that. But regardless, I love it. Great points there. So, because yeah, you can make the argument that it's really both of their teams, right? But I think that's where we're going to see Bo Nix really, make a big strides. Is going to be the off the field stuff as well.
Well, here in like 15 years, right, we can argue who was responsible for the dynasty, right?
That would be a good problem to try to figure out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be a dream scenario for sure. All right, so we'll go to Kodiak. You're next on the list, all right? I believe that the Broncos should prioritize the John Franklin Myers extension over Zach Allen's. Tell me why I'm wrong.
Oh, wow. Wow. That is really, really spicy. You know what? I respect it. I respect the balls you have. Okay. Here's why I'll tell you why you're wrong. But I really, really respect the ability to go out on a limb and say something like this, because honestly, I don't think any Broncos content creator has said something like that. All right. So my thing with Zach Allen is I feel like he's just more of an irreplaceable part of our defense, at least more so than John Franklin Myers was. You look at the stuff we put on Zach Allen's plate last year. He had the second most snaps in the NFL over the past season, only behind Jalen Carter. And Jalen Carter had 3 more games to get it done. I think Zach Allen had 1,120 and Jalen Carter had like 1,150. So that was 30 less snaps than Jalen Carter, once again, with 3 less games to do that. But just looking at everything that was on Zach Allen's play last year and the fact that he took the leap that he did, the fact that he ascended into one of the game's very best defensive linemen, like, I don't know. I just feel like with drafting a guy like Savion Jones, the intent is that you replace JFM there, because Zach Allen has just become such a stalwart in the middle of our defense. And he's just become, such a dog. It felt like last year when you were looking at those leaders and pressure charts through like week 5, week 6, Zach Allen's name was always at the top. So that's why you're wrong. I think Zach Allen plays more of an irreplaceable role in our defense rather than John Franklin Myers. Like John Franklin Myers, we really, really like him. But at the end of the day, he is more of an upper end rotational piece, whereas Allen is a true 3-down guy. And he showed it this past year. There were a lot of injury concerns when we signed him coming from Arizona in 2023. But yeah, he has done everything to put that to the end, and he has become a true workhorse for us.
I love it. So the reason I asked this is because I obviously take it from a different point of view. So I actually do believe that take, but it is not because I think JFM is remotely better than Zach Allen. Obviously, I think Zach Allen's a lot better, and I think he should be, like, if you had to choose, it's an easy choice. The reason I think that we should prioritize John Franklin Myers, because if you look at the two players, who's more likely to hold out and be dramatic about not getting an extension? It's JFM over Zach Allen, right? So you already know, like, Zach Allen's going to be fine. Also, secondly, you're definitely not going to franchise JFM next offseason.
Right.
Whereas it's an easy franchise tag for Zach Allen. So what that means for the team from a business standpoint, from the front office, is that they can wait a little bit on Zach Allen, because they know even if they went into the season, they're going to get everything from him. He's going to ball out. He's going to, be great on all that other front. JFM, it might not necessarily be the case. It's also a much easier deal to get done. You probably just give like a 1 or 2 year extension, nothing crazy. Whereas with Zach Allen, it's going to be a lot more like, a lot more money, a lot more years. So that's why. And I think ultimately John Franklin Myers' deal probably gets done before, if they ultimately choose to do it. So that's why I would prioritize it. But for nothing about him on the field. It's just for those exact reasons. But this is why I kind of like the segment, because it's fun, and it might sound like I'm saying some outlandish stuff, but maybe it makes sense.
Mark, I have a question.
But I also do think I will add, like, I think John Franklin Myers getting re-signed, or being happy and being here for a couple more years, is extremely important, because even though Savion Jones might ball out, you still got Malcolm Roach, who I think can get an extension too. Like, you got good depth, but you don't want to mess with the depth. Our D line is way too nice to break up at this point. So,
Mark, I have a question.
all right,
for you.
cool.
I have a question.
David, are you ready?
Jeremy has a question
Go
for
ahead.
you.
I have a question.
Oh yeah.
You're not a father, are you?
No.
Right. So it sounds
At
right
least I
now.
don't think so.
Yeah, that we know. It's like that's the classic move of like, if I don't give my one kid ice cream, he's gonna cry in the restaurant. So I better let him have it while the good kid is sitting there. And you're like, well, you're not gonna complain, so I'm not gonna give it to you. That's can be a bad precedent a little bit of being like,
obviously,
I know what you're saying. I agree with you.
Yeah,
what I'm saying is
yeah.
like, Zach Allen, you gotta pay the guy that deserves it, and JFM, like I think they both deserve it. Don't get me wrong, but like it is one of those things where it's just like you don't want to take advantage of just because Zach Allen is like a little more like stable or unstable. If he's a little more like reserved as far as his personality goes and not going to speak out, you don't also want to take advantage of that. So it is a tricky like line to walk on that, but I know what you're saying.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. And obviously, George, it's not like George Payne's going to come out and say, we did John Franklin first because we didn't want him to cry about it. But I feel like it's got to factor into the equation, but really the main reason is because of that franchise tag, right? Because a lot of people talked about it like, I don't even know the last time we used it. I think it was on McManus probably. But like, you have the luxury of using a franchise tag if you needed to, and you're not going to do it on John Franklin Myers, you'll do it on Zach Allen. But in an ideal world, you don't have to worry about using it on either of those guys, and you get them both signed up. So, there's going to be that portion of it. But no, by all means, I want Zach Allen here for a long time. I love that dude. He's awesome. But yes, that's a good analogy. But you know what? I mean, I probably am going to end up falling into that trap as a parent. I'll be like, I gave it to your brother because you handle these things pretty good and he doesn't. So that's why he got it.
I know it's tough.
I could see myself doing that. All right, David, you ready?
Let's do it. Let's go.
All right. The Broncos should not consider a Courtland Sutton extension until midway through the season at the latest. Tell me why I'm wrong.
Man, why are you wrong? Broncos country doesn't want to hear this, but he's the best damn wide receiver on the team going into his contract year. People don't want to hear that. Courtland Sutton's our best wide receiver that we got. Everybody wants to crap on Courtland Sutton, but they got nothing to say when he comes up for big catches in key games for us. Yeah, he's got a few drops. We're not saying he's Demaryius Thomas, all right? We just want to give him good wide receiver 2 money. That's all he wants anyways is, high-end wide receiver 2 money. We don't need to pay him, 30, 50, or, whatever $1 million that all these big-time wide receivers are asking. We should absolutely extend Courtland Sutton, get it done. And if the rumors are true, who reported this? Was it Troy Rank or Mike Kliss about how we said, hey, we're going to give you incentives on last year's deal so that you can still meet that original number you were going to make. And if you do that, we'll sign you to a deal. If there was some sort of verbal promise made, that's a bad look, man. If we end up not doing anything with Courtland, and with the cap exponentially growing, let's say in 2 years, Courtland's just looking a little washed. I mean, if we got to let him go and eat, $10 million of dead money, is that really the end of the world in today's, NFL landscape? Not at all. Not at all. So what do I say we do? We keep the vibes good, keep everybody happy, and we just get this done so it's no longer a distraction for anybody on the team going into the season, because we got the goal of winning the AFC West. I don't want any of this drama or talking points from the media talking about this as the season goes on. So that wraps up my time.
Do you think that we should sign him before camp, before the season starts? Do you have a timeline on it?
Man, I'm not picky. It would be nice for us to get it done before training camp. Just like we got last year's stuff figured out with Cortland before training camp, or rather, he said that he was just going to be there and play for that number that he was due for. So, I don't want it to be a talking point this year going into training camp. I think if you're not going to extend him, well, then maybe you just trade him then because. But I feel like, again, this is a relationship business. People do not like to remember that, but other agents are going to see how this thing played out. And we're talking about Denver being more and more of a free agent destination, especially this year. Little things like this make a difference with how you treat your veterans. So, again, I don't think a Cortland Sutton extension breaks the bank, nor does it, in my opinion, hamper the franchise with the wide receiver room going forward. Everybody could use an Adam Thielen. That's how I feel about it, and I think he's ours.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a good point. I think the reason I worded it is like until midway through the season, because I agree with all your points. I think that we should ultimately get an extension done, even though I've been labeled as a Cortland Sutton hater, but I don't think it needs to happen right away. Because first of all, he's getting $20.2 million this year.
Yes.
That is very much, like, if you look at per year average salary, it's absolutely fair as to where I think he belongs. I know obviously he wants more, and I get that. But I think his contract is beyond fair for what he's getting this year. He took a little bit of a cap, of a haircut last year to be able to free us up some money, and then we got him some incentives. But what he's getting paid this year is good. There's a lot of moving parts, right? The reason I say maybe wait until the season goes, unless it's going to be like you said, mess up the vibes. Because it's like, let's say these other receivers just absolutely ball out. Then you have the negotiating factor. If they don't, then he's got the negotiating. So it's like you can go back and forth. And then also, man, I mean, we see what's happening with Terry McLaurin, right? In the Commanders. Maybe they are wanting to trade him. Maybe they call you. And you have to have that conversation. I'm not advocating one way or the other. I haven't really thought about it enough. But, like, going to have the door open a little bit. So I don't think that there needs to be like a set date on the, right off the bat. But, we also stuck with him after he tore his ACL. We signed him before. We stuck with him. Even in the years that we were supposed to be really bad, we kept him on the team. We ended up moving on from Jerry Jeudy and not him. Declined a lot of really good offers for him. So I think overall we've been more than fair to Cortland, and I think he gets that too. But yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. Like, especially when we didn't really do too much in the draft besides Pat Bryant. Like, keep the good vibes going. There's no reason to shake up all the good stuff that's going on right now. So, I guess I agree with my take, but it's just more of a waiting game. But at the end of the day, I think we're still both advocating for at least having Cortland Sutton on the books for another year. After.
Once he's gone, we're like, hey, how do we get a veteran on the team that can produce?
Yeah.
Like that's how it is.
I got a question for y'all based on like everything that we've talked about. What is your price for Cortland Sutton? Let's say, I don't know, who even needs a wide receiver? Like Dallas, I don't know. They do some wonky stuff. Let's say Dallas calls you. Let's say Jerry Jones is on the phone with George Paton right now. What would Jerry Jones have to offer? Not even him specifically, but compensation-wise, draft capital-wise, for you to move on from Sutton?
A second, and I have to really love the guys that are coming up behind him. But both of those things have to happen. I honestly wouldn't do a third, and I wouldn't do it if I had any questions about Troy Franklin or Vele or any of those guys. I want to be rock solid behind him before I'm making that move, because right now last year he was our only legit weapon for a good part of the season. So that, and for having a young quarterback, that was so valuable. I do not want to, I don't underestimate like his value to this team.
If Dallas will give up a fourth for Jonathan Mingo, yeah, maybe they would give up a second. I think that's what my price would have to be as well. I think I would decline a third right now just because of what he has produced for the team. But if this comes right before the season starts or as the season begins, and to Mark's point, all of our young guys are looking amazing. Devon Vele looks like the second coming of Marcus Colston. Do I trade Cortland Sutton for a second round pick? Yeah, I feel a lot better about doing that then. Now, I will say, if we sign him to an extension, I still think he'll be under $30 million a year. Is that a crazy take?
No,
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
He better be.
Yeah.
He better be. I would, man, if they realistically called me, I would say I will trade Cortland Sutton and a second-round pick to you for CeeDee Lamb. That's what I would tell him.
Whoa.
Because I'm kind of like I said, pre-draft, it's different. You can say, give me a third, I'll do it. After the draft, you've got to get something back in return. So it's like, a second-round pick, you definitely got to do it, but it would still suck because, you're making yourself very vulnerable. But I would do that. You guys wouldn't trade Cortland Sutton in a second-round pick for CeeDee Lamb?
I mean, are you kidding me?
Would you do Cortland in a first-round pick for CeeDee Lamb?
No.
I think it's fair value-wise. I think that's an underpayment for Lamb, to be honest, like just raw value. But then you lose a lot of team flexibility there.
That's what I was thinking.
I would consider it, man, especially if you think you're going to be picking in the, at 32, like David thinks. I mean, shit.
That's right.
But
that's right.
It'd be funny because even if we could play a hypothetical game. If we got CeeDee Lamb, Devon Vele would instantly be the oldest wide receiver on our team. How crazy is that?
That's crazy.
He's older than CeeDee Lamb. I just kind of pulled that up. But yeah, obviously that's a big hypothetical. I don't know. I don't think. I think it would be hard to justify trading him now. Like I said, unless in camp you were really happy with the rest of the group, then you would do it. But unless you were getting another receiver in return, then I would do it. How about for like McLaurin? Would you do an even swap? Would you give up something?
I would
McLaurin.
I would rather have McLaurin than CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah. Oh, than CeeDee Lamb?
Than CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
Damn.
I think he's better. I think he's
That's a hot take.
Well,
that's a hot take. I like it. I think Terry McLaurin's a baller.
I think he's
I
better.
don't know if he's better than CD, but they are different. Like surprisingly, they're very different types of receivers in ways.
I think McLaurin has been so valuable for Jaden Daniels. He's just been awesome every year, and that's just how I feel. I would rather have him personally.
Man, Kodiak had to run out the room after hearing that.
Now, here's the thing. If you had McLaurin on Dallas and you had Lamb as a Redskin, do you think that like the hype around McLaurin would be insane because of just the team? I just think I don't know. That's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not ready to put him in the same like category. I think CeeDee Lamb is so unbelievably special. Like I really do. But I think Terry McLaurin like fits so much with what Sean Payton would want to do in terms of like his style, like possession receiver. Yeah. Being able to just like constantly get open, catches everything, like he's solid. But it's tough just because I feel like, man, CD is so good too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, regardless. But I'm saying like straight up like Sutton for McLaurin. Because I know that was like a topic that got brought up on Twitter, I think, once McLaurin came out and said that he wasn't happy or whatever it was.
Yeah.
It would be like a wide receiver swap that would make sense, for both teams. Like both teams are getting guys that are happier. You'd obviously have to give McLaurin an extension. But, I mean, would you guys do that or would you consider it?
I would consider it. The thing is, for our team, personality is very important, and I don't want disgruntled people. And there's going to be a balance, especially once Bo hits the 5th year where we're going to have to pay him. You're going to have to make some tough decisions. And if you're going to get a bunch of people who are like, where's my money? Where's my money? Where's my money? Like that's where those teams break up. And then you get into be like the Bengals and you're like super top heavy, or, you have no depth because you spent all your money on, 5 players and all this stuff. So I just think personality-wise, and the way that the ball is going to be distributed, you just got to factor that in. It's not just talent every time.
Yeah,
Cody, I can see you really wanting to say something. Go ahead.
No, I agree with Jeremy. And real quick, I just want to say I ran off because I have a Terry McLaurin jersey. The reason I wanted to get something Washington before they changed their name 5 years ago. So I wanted an old piece of their history before.
He wanted to
yeah.
trigger people.
Yeah, I thought what's it called? I thought it would have been perfect for this segment to show off the McLaurin jersey, but yeah.
Just casually stroll back in and you're wearing the McLaren jersey.
Oh no, yeah, no. But yeah, no. Ultimately, like the discussion with Terry McLaurin's a really interesting one because it's like he's kind of in a similar spot as Sutton. Like I think Terry is a little bit older because he did come into the NFL as an older rookie, right?
He's
he
a
came
year
in when he
younger.
was 24, right? I think his rookie year was like when he was 24, 25. And yeah, I don't know. He's kind of in a similar spot, but I don't know. I don't really know what the value difference is.
Because obviously over 30.
Yeah, Terry has been really, really productive even throughout his NFL career. And it took Jane Daniels getting there to finally unlock him, and we saw what he could really do. So I don't know. It's an interesting one for sure.
Yeah. I mean, everyone was like, oh, they talk about Sutton's 1,000-yard seasons, which has been nice having back-to-backs, but McLaurin has done that every single year, except for his rookie year when he had 919.
Wow.
And I don't even know who his quarterbacks were for those first few years.
Wow.
Wow.
Dude is a baller, man. Yeah, 1,100, 1,000 yards, 1,100, 1,000 yards, 1,100. Pretty crazy.
I'm telling you.
Yeah. Yeah, and you saw what he did in the postseason. My God, he was a stud for him.
He's clutch.
In the playoffs too. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Scary Terry. I think he's very underrated. Anyways, I had one last take for everybody, but I think my time's gone, so we'll save it for the end if we have some time there. But I'm gonna pass it on to Jeremy in Q3, brother.
All right, Q3 again. I like it because that was my basketball number because I love Allen Iverson. All right, Q3 we got the giddy up again. Giddy up or hold your horses. The first question we will not be asking because my question was the Broncos will sign a veteran running back before training camp. I think Sean heard that.
I swear to God, I had the exact same question too.
Giddy up. Yeah, exactly. Let's go, and then we kind of brushed on another one of my questions, so we'll just start with that. Let's go Mark first. Zach Allen will be the first player to get a new deal done. Giddy up or hold your horses?
That's a good question. I think hold your horses for the reasons that I just listed before.
Yeah.
I do think he will definitely get a deal done before the season, no doubt about it. But I feel like they're probably going to want to get the Sutton deal taken care of first, or potentially a Nick Bonito one. It wouldn't surprise you like Malcolm Roach too, because that's like an easy deal to do. But it was interesting in the presser today. Somebody asked him about Sean Payton about Nick Bonito. He said, yeah, he needs to get a new deal, and a lot of other guys need to get a deal too. So he acknowledged that. He also acknowledged that he needs to be on more of a snap count, like they need to limit his reps, which I thought was interesting. We'll give a full recap later, but I did put a video about it before, but we'll talk about it here too. But yeah, it's I would say hold your horses on. I would say probably Sutton, because the Sutton deal is going to be a little bit easier to get done. I think it's more straightforward. It's not going to be super long, maybe a couple of years, 20 million a year, 40 million guaranteed will probably be what it'd be, something like that. But yeah.
Yeah, I'll go with hold your horses on this too, because the guy that I feel like would be the best value to extend right now is Nick Bonito, man. That's what I want. I mean, what if he goes out and gets another 15 or like 20 sacks, and the price having back-to-back years like that goes through the roof? And again, some people are like, well, you don't want Vic Beasley to happen. Well, again, with our cap situation moving forward, I think somebody asked what the cap is, like projected cap in 26. I don't know. I think it's like, what, $260-something million or so. I could be off on that. But you're signing Nick Bonito, in my opinion, whatever number he's at, whatever he extends to, it's a bargain, because he'll go out and perform and instantly add value to it. So I'm usually a fan of extending guys early rather than later on. And the NFL salary cap allows you to – that needs to be the plan. If you need to move off somebody, as long as it's not $50, $80 million in dead money, you should be okay.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree with David. And I've been saying this offseason is that even though I think Allen is more important to your team, I think Benito needs to be the priority with these negotiations, especially getting them done early, because what is the price? Let's say Nick Benito has a repeat year this past year, but actually takes more strides and, develops as a run defender. What do you have to pay him next year at this time in comparison to what if you had gotten this deal done earlier this year? And there are some red flags, very real red flags about, a lot of his production came when the game was out of hand. A lot of his, production is because we play in a scheme that's very friendly to our edge rushers, and that's completely fine. But we're now in an era of the NFL where it's harder to find players that are worth those level of deals. And a 25-year-old second-team All-Pro edge, I'm sorry, you just got to get that done, taken care of ASAP. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, I agree. I just to play devil's advocate for that. I mean, I'm 100% in agreement, but you never know what Nick Benito's agent or Nick Benito could be telling him. Maybe they're like, you know what, let's just bet on ourselves, ball out one more year. Then you're going to get a shitload more. Mm-hmm. So we can't assume that they are very desperate or really very much wanting to get a deal done. I mean, obviously with the injuries, I would always be the player that would be sign me any chance you get. But there could be that could make it a little bit, tough too. But yeah, I agree. Nick Benito should definitely be the priority. And then when you extend Sutton and Allen, you're going to save cap space too. So you can front load some guys, back load other guys. Really easy to move things around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a really interesting dance that the cap guys have to do. All right, third question here. The Broncos will finish with a top 10 offense. We'll start with Kodiak.
I say yeah. If you're talking top 10 in points per game or yards, then I say that yes, they will get this done. Because what were we this past year? I forget the exact number we were. I think we were around 10th. I think we were 12th, 11th, or something like that. I can see Mark looking at his computer, so I imagine he's.
I'm looking it up for you.
Yeah, let me know. But ultimately, yeah, I mean, all the signs for the Broncos taking that step forward on the offensive side of the ball. I know that we got a really good draw this year with the NFC South or whatever, but just looking at the way our team is structured and the way we're going to be more efficient on the offensive side of the ball, we might not have as many points per game, or we might have a slight uptick in points per game, but you got to factor in your defense is probably going to be better. You got to factor in that you're going to be controlling the clock more. You're going to have a real run game. You're going to have Ingram. You're going to have that easy button for that offense. So, yeah, I'll go giddy up. I don't think it'd be that hard for them to clear that mark.
We were 19th in yards per game, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10th in points per game. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, yep. I agree, not that far off. I mean, I don't know. The whole yards per game thing, I never understood, why that, for both offense and defense, why that's, the main metric. But
I'll go giddy up, and maybe this is a little bit of a hot take, but I think that this will be the best, most fun offense that we've watched since 2013.
I agree.
Yep.
Yeah, that's still not setting too high. I have a bar, but yeah.
Yeah, what was our numbers in 2012?
They were really good.
They were pretty damn good. Our offense was sweet.
Man, need to do a video on that. But comparing, but yeah, man, if we're gonna win the AFC West, we gotta have a top 10 offense.
Yep. Or at least close to it, yeah. Yeah, no doubt. Giddy up for me too, man. That's 3 giddy. I feel like there's no reason to think that we can't. Bo Nick's second year in Sean Payton's system. A lot of young guys. All the gaps on the offense have been filled. Our offensive line is elite. There's no reason why we shouldn't. And we were 10th in scoring and 19th in points, and the first month of the season was abysmal. So it's I think it's only going to get better. So I'm all on the giddy up train.
Love it.
All right. Question 4. We got the Kansas City Chiefs are the Denver Broncos' biggest rival.
This year?
We'll go. Historically, it's probably been another team, but have they become the main? If you're gonna say in the next 15 years, and we'll start with David, and then we'll go to Kodiak after that.
Now, it's very clear that Chiefs fans don't see us that way, but right now They're the top dog. We got to take them down. But we were very close to sweeping them last year. Now, you can make excuses, whatever, man. Carson Wentz had money to make, and, he threw away that opportunity to do it. But I think that the fact that Bo Nix orchestrated what should have been a game-winning drive down there in Arrowhead shows a lot about what's to come with this team. I think right now, obviously, we all hate the Chiefs more than any of these other teams in the AFC West. But I think, man, when the season's done, I think the Chiefs will see us as their main rival in the West here moving forward.
All right,
Yeah.
Alex.
So, as far as like us, we got to worry about us first. Like, the Chiefs, I don't know. They probably have more rival. They probably consider the 49ers, the Eagles, and the Bengals right now to be their biggest rivals. Same with Buffalo. But looking back at my lifetime, even when I was like 12 or 13 in 2013, I still hated the Chiefs more than any other team, even before they were good, because I didn't grow up in an era of football where the Raiders were good. Like, I know that all the older Broncos fans, they say, oh, F the Raiders and all that. Like, they will never cheer for the Raiders. Dude, I will never cheer for the Chiefs. I have never lived in a world where the Raiders were a competitive threat year in and year out. So, yes, they've always been my most hated team. The first game I actually went to was Broncos Chiefs 2007 when I was 6 years old. We won like 42-7 or something like that. And I've always hated them more than any of this team. And I imagine that with the success they've had, a lot of other Broncos fans feel this way as well. And there always has been hatred. There always will be animosity towards the Chiefs, Chargers, Raiders, and Seahawks for, being old division rivals and whatever. But yeah, yes, 100% for the Denver Broncos. It's always, this is the year we beat the Chiefs. For the past 8-9 years, we're always saying this is the year we do it. And, we were finally able to accomplish it. So yeah, now it's just, how do you take that next step and how do you surpass them in their success and win the division?
Yeah.
Before you answer,
I mean, listen, aside from last year, like it's so hard for me to, even as a Bronco fan, say it was like a rivalry because they just were so much better than us, and like that's what sucks about it. Like for me, I'm a little opposite of Kodiak. Like I will forever, my biggest team that I'll hate the most is the Raiders always and forever. I would root for the Chargers and the Chiefs happily over the Raiders. Obviously, I hate all of them. But the Raiders have always been my thing. But I mean, it's been so lopsided for so long. And I think moving forward, we will have a lot of times where we get the better of them. And I think that we're going to be a better team than them this year. But I'm going to say, like, hold your horses on this one. I think moving forward for at least the next couple of years, our biggest rival is probably going to be the Chargers pretty quickly. Because I think we're going to have a much harder chance to beat them versus beating the Chiefs. I think we've built our team for the last few years with the idea of beating the Chiefs and not so much the Chargers, man. And all they did was sign Najee Harris and draft Omarion Hampton and sign Mekhi Becton. Like they've just gotten stronger and it's a really bad matchup. And Harbaugh knows how to beat Peyton. So I think it's probably going to be the Chargers moving forward, but you got to respect the Chiefs and you can't forget about them. They've been the king of the division for, a decade. So yeah, it's going to be tough. It was similar to one of the questions I had. So I kind of had that, like I thought about it a little bit before.
Yeah.
But it's tough too. Cause like when we go to play in LA or when it was San Diego before, it's basically a home game. So it never really feels like a rivalry either.
Right.
But I think they're going to be the biggest, what is it? Chink in our armor? Is that what they say? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Moving forward is going to be the Chargers probably.
It has been interesting as a Broncos fan because it's like, again, like Alex was saying, they have like the Raiders haven't been good for a long time, but as a kid, it's like Raider hater shirts, all this stuff. Like everybody hated the Raiders. The way that the Raiders play, they're dirty. Oh, I hate the Raiders, and that was it. And then the Chargers had their little like era with LaDainian Tomlinson and Antonio Gates and the quarterback who had 100 kids.
Philip Rivers, yeah.
Philip Rivers. But like, and now it's like seems to be Chiefs era, but it is interesting because it's like it's easy to hate the team that's the number one, but like It is. I agree with you. I think that's a great point. We have built ourselves to beat the Chiefs, and kind of there's a team kind of running alongside of us that's being built in a similar fashion who also knows how to beat us. So it's a tough one. All right, let's go. Question. Is this the fifth question? Yeah.
Yes.
Sean Payton is the best coach in the AFC West, and we're going to start it. We'll go clockwise. Or let's go Alex, then Mark, then David.
I got to hold my horses on this one. As good of a coach as he is, and as, a coach, I think he deserves the respect. I think he has done the singular best job of any coach turning around a franchise the past 2 years. I mean, I don't know. Quinn did a pretty good job too. But the reason I hold my horses here is because you just got to respect, like what we were saying about the Chiefs, you just got to respect the fact that Andy Reid has done what he has done over the past few years. And obviously, he couldn't get it done, but those at a certain point with Philly, and then they couldn't get it done for a while with Kansas City until they got Patrick Mahomes. But those days are well in the past. I think, for a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, where they've found an amazing way to, just beat everybody, and they've done it in, plenty of ways. Like, their offense is not what it once was, but they just play a boring brand of offense now, and they can still get it done. So the fact that their team identity has shifted so much, and the fact that they won their third Super Bowl with Mahomes off the backs of their defense, not their offense, it just shows the greatness of Andy Reid.
Yeah. I was next, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I would say hold your horses. Now, Eli is in here saying, am I tripping, or did Mike Shanahan coach the Raiders? Very random. He did, I think, early on. He was the head coach when they were the Los Angeles Raiders. But to say he might be the third best coach is a little bit crazy. I can absolutely make an argument that he's the best coach in the AFC West if I had to, but I definitely like, you can't dismiss what Andy Reid has done. You can say, okay, he didn't do anything until Mahomes got there. You can say the same thing about any great coach. What did Sean Payton do? Without Drew Brees? Does Pete Carroll win anything without that defense and without Russell Wilson? Jim Harbaugh hasn't won anything yet, but he's absolutely the second best in terms of tenure, in terms of how consistent he's been. Obviously got screwed out of two complete, like one of probably the worst call in NFL history of going to another Super Bowl that they probably end up winning against the Rams. And then, you think about the Minnesota Miracle, which was crazy. But, you think about what he's done with having a tight end start as a quarterback and being able to still win games with Taysom Hill and going 6-0 with Teddy Bridgewater, and really just like maximizing, like he never has very, very, very bad years. He maximizes what he has. So I think he's absolutely the second best. But I would say hold your horses in terms of being the best. Just like DeAndre Witherspoon says, Andy Reid is a Hall of Fame coach. I think I think Sean Payton is without a doubt a Hall of Fame coach too. They, just right now, Andy Reid is probably a first ballot Hall of Famer because he's won 3. But I think Sean Payton wins 3 if he had Patrick Mahomes too. So,
I guess to throw a wrench in this, Pete Carroll's got a national championship and a Super Bowl. He's the only guy out of these 4 that have done it. Right now it's hard to say anybody but Andy Reid just because of the success, right? And we got swept by Jim Harbaugh last year, man. That was really difficult. But I will stand on it too, Mark. I think Sean Payton's the second best coach in this division, man. I think he is. I think he's better than Jim Harbaugh. He's going to prove it this year. And, Pete Carroll, we'll talk about that here in a minute. We'll talk about that later on. But right now, Andy Reid is a tier above anybody else.
yep.
Yeah, and just to throw my opinion in, I'm gonna give it to Sean. I'm gonna go out on a limb and just, not to be a homer, but I just think Sean, like you made a great points, Mark, about he should have been in probably 2 other Super Bowls and had good chance to win them. I always look at it like if you threw everybody had the exact same amount of talent, and then you got to fight who would win that. I just like his personality a little more. I think Harbaugh's awesome. He scares me a little bit, but I don't know if he's built for the long run as an NFL coach. He always seems to have like issues, kind of like Kubiak did, as far as like stress and that kind of thing. Andy Reid, yeah, it's impossible to differentiate him from Patrick Mahomes, but yeah, I just think Sean was what he did with New Orleans. I mean, people are forgetting how bad New Orleans was. I mean, they were nothing forever. They're like him turning around New Orleans was like the biggest turnaround job I think in NFL history. So, time will tell. Time will tell. But I mean, the fact that these are the 4 coaches in this division is so insane. I think they're all.
It's like bullshit.
It's great.
Right when we finally get good, everyone else gets just as damn good. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like the Patriots had literally layups.
I think I got to take my dog out, so I'm going to disappear for a second. But I'm
for 15 years, and now we got to play like maybe 4 Hall of Fame. There are 3 other Hall of Fame coaches. So yeah, it is tough. It is tough. You want to hit some stars real quick, David, while he's walking?
Oh yeah, we could do that, and then transition on to Kodiak. I got a few of these. So Law Dog coming in here with a few of these.
Yeah, good to see you. Welcome in.
Law Dog. Just curious, what's your opinion on the Raiders this year? We all know the Broncos are going to do great, but nice to get a different opinion. And what do you guys think about the Raiders this year, guys?
I don't like the fact that we have to play. I mean, they're the best 4th place team I can remember in a long time. Now, do they have the worst quarterback out of the 4? I would say yes. But man, they just got the number 1 running back, and they already had the number 1 tight end, so it's going to be tough. And Pete Carroll always does a good job of motivating guys. I freaking hate playing the Raiders. I think that's kind of what that question was like. Which team do you just like? Not which one do you hate to lose to the most? That would be like how I can kind of determine who's the biggest rival, you know? Because it's like if the Chiefs beat us, you're kind of like, all right, that sucks. I'm pissed. But like losing the Raiders just freaking sucks. Yeah. So that's yeah. I think they're going to end up being 4th in the division, and I think they're going to be a pretty darn good team. So yeah, that's how I feel about them.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of echo your sentiments. I mean, the fact that they just got so much stuff that absolutely raises the floor. Like, you get Carroll, you get Geno, and then you add Genty. Now, I'm not entirely scared of them this year. I still think that they do ultimately fall short, and I do think they maybe win 7-8 games, which that'd be a remarkable improvement. I think any Raiders fan would take that. But, yeah, they're going to be a tough out. They're going to be a tough out for sure, Law Dog.
Yeah. Jesus, I leave for 2 seconds. We're talking Raiders.
We decided to do some star questions while you were off.
I'm just kidding. I saw it.
Okay.
Yeah, I will say this. Like, I think that, the more I learned about it with Geno Smith's numbers indoors being so good, it's like the Jared Goff thing. Like, I could see the Raiders really taking a nice jump this year, and I want them so bad to finish 3rd because I feel like if they finish 3rd, that means the Chiefs are last. But I just don't know. Even with what the Chiefs has lost, man, I don't know if I can go that far, even though I want to will it. But I still think it's possible to where we could see all 4 teams in the playoffs. I know that sounds probably crazy to some, but I think it could happen, man. You get the division winner and then all 3 wild card spots with the AFC West. We'll see how they play these other divisions. But yeah, I think it's going to be a gauntlet this year. Raiders are no exception.
Here's the question. Who would you feel better about as a fan this season, the Raiders or the Steelers? Because the Steelers have been over 500 for forever.
That's a good question.
But and then one might be the 4th place team in the division. So it's like, but I'll just leave that there. What do you guys think?
outside of New Orleans, I think New Orleans and the Giants, I think it's hard for me to think about a fan base that feels worse about their team in the spot they're in than the Steelers, because they're in the worst spot right now. And they're not even getting high draft picks either. Like, even when Buffalo and Tennessee were in that purgatory, as we called it, like, they were at least picking in the middle of the draft. They weren't like making the playoffs and just getting reamed in the divisional round and giving up like 40 points a game or whatever they've done over the past 6 years. So yeah, I go Raiders for that. Like, I feel better if I'm a Raider fan.
Yeah,
100%. Even if I have to
a Raiders fan, man.
Yeah, even if I have to live in jail, I feel better as a Raider fan.
Yeah,
I do.
easily. I mean, you might not have like a future quarterback. You got Geno, that's pretty underrated and solid for the next couple of years. But you got Ashton Genty and Brock Bowers to build around on offense. It's pretty exciting. And then Max Crosby's obviously the TJ Watt equivalent in terms of defensive players. But Steelers are in the absolute worst position that you can be in all of football, without a doubt. Easily, in my opinion. So, yep.
Well, for our last section, Kodiak, take it away.
All right. So first of all, before we do this, I do want to give a huge shout out to Eli for the $5 super chat. We missed the horsepower hour. No, you did not. You have caught the very, very end. So my high salute to you, Eli, for super chatting. I don't know whose channel you did it on, but thank you regardless. Either way. So I have a question for all of you. Mark was talking last week about our general manager, George Paton. And I'm just wondering, what letter grade would you give to George Paton for his time and tenure as the GM of the Denver Broncos? I am very, very curious to hear your thoughts. And, maybe I might end up playing, his defense or his devil's advocate, depending on what you guys think. But let's go Jeremy, David, and Mark on this one.
Okay.
Letter grade. I would give him I'm going to give him a B+. All's well that ends well, and we're in a really good shape right now. Now, I will say, there were some errors, which there's always going to be. I always hate the fact that people have short-term memory on John Elway and how, we couldn't find a quarterback. It's like, yeah, it's not easy. But the three biggest blunders of his tenure was Russell Wilson trade, but everybody, whether you want to admit it or not, everybody would have done it at the time. So you can't really. So getting mad at him is getting mad at yourself. Let's be honest. You would have done it too. The contract is the real biggest of the blunders, and I don't know this, but I've heard that was an ownership, not a George Paton type of thing. So if that is true, I'm not going to hold that against him. I think George Paton typically is a guy who kind of proceeds with caution. He'll take risks. He's not risk averse, but he always wants to make the smart decision. He's not emotional about his decision making, and I think he would have waited to pay Russell Wilson after the first year, and that was really the biggest blunder. The Hackett signing, I think that was one where, again, in retrospect, huge blunder, but I think a lot of people thought that was going to mean Aaron Rodgers, and that was going to mean if it was either going to mean Aaron Rodgers or it was going to be a good partnership with Russ. And I think that was the thinking at the time. Get a guy who's been with a big quarterback on another team and kind of build an offense together. And the thing that makes George Paton the grade so high is he's really good drafter. He's really good at finding these later round guys too and scouring, but he is not afraid to move on from a mistake. That is a big weakness that a lot of people have, is where they are so locked in on their take that they're going to just go down with the ship no matter what. After it's taken on water, all this stuff, and they are still nope, I'm sticking with this. And it's George Payton's oh well, that was a mistake. Let's move on. Let's get it. Fold the hand as soon as you know you can't win, and that's George Paton. So he helped bring in Sean Payton. That seems to be like a great move. He was part of the process that drafted Bo Nix after 1 year of Russell Wilson. He's drafted Patrick Surtain, who looks like a future Hall of Famer. I mean, we can go down the line of all these great draft picks. So, where we're sitting, he's only been the GM for a short period, and where the Broncos are sitting right now is so optimistic. Like we all feel so good about it that you have to give him credit about that. Like even through mistakes, you ended up getting to the right place, and you did it relatively quick. So B+.
Who's next?
I think it was David. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Dude, I'll give him an A, man. I'll do it. I was calling for him to possibly be fired after Sean Payton was hired. But I think, to Jeremy's point, I don't think George Payton is here if he was primarily responsible for the Russell Wilson extension. Like, I just don't think it. When you look at some of his draft picks, I think some of them have taken a while to hit. But a lot of the higher end picks that we've had, they've shown production with finding some day 3 production as well. I think the way in which we've handled contract extensions has been so much better than with John Elway, who wanted to nickel and dime and move off of guys all the time. And just as Hydra Ammo said, George Payton has no ego. And I think that has to do with a good culture. If you're a Nuggets fan, what has kind of derailed this thing of ever turning into a dynasty possibly? It's because of the egos of the general manager, the head coach, the ownership, all of that. George Payton he's been able to work with somebody like with Sean Payton. He's made unpopular decisions that in hindsight, like, have turned out to be really, really good, even though like the fan base didn't want it. Bad GMs draft Justin Fields over Pat Surtain. He will continuously make like the not sexy pick and watch those guys turn out to be. I mean, look at Jonah Ellis, man. Like he had just as many sacks last year as Jared Verse. So I think we're in a great spot. Mark?
Yeah, I could probably make a 2-hour video on this. I gave him a B+ originally, and I thought I was going to be way higher than you guys, so I'm happy that we're all on the same page. I think you can make an argument that he's easily an A. I think he's one of the best GMs in all of football for a lot of the reasons you guys talked about. I mean, a general manager, their goal is like what they need to do is they need to be very good at drafting, and they need to be able to work with hand in hand and in tandem with whatever head coach that they're, getting players for, and make sure that they're getting them the best possible players, but also doing it in the most like fiscally responsible way. And that's what he does. Like for every one draft miss he has, he's got about 3 hits on average. We can go through them all if you want. And then the most important thing, like Jeremy had alluded to, is when you make a mistake and you can just wipe your hands clean and move on. That's always the most important thing. Like in any company you work for, any leadership role that you're in, you're going to make mistakes. It's all about how you rebound from that. He did that with the Russell Wilson thing. He did that with Hackett quickly, 1 year, like not even a full year. He did that with Randy Gregory, just wash his hands and move on, and has always been able to have a lot of hits. So he's been fantastic in the draft, a bunch of draft hits. He's been very good in free agency, especially when you talk about value players. He's made really good trades. Any GM that got a first rounder from Bradley Chubb, it's a win for the team. That's what he did as a part of a lot of things. So there's a lot that you can go through. He's obviously had his rough moments, but overall, I think George Payton is awesome. And he's also showing just how bad of a GM Mickey Loomis is. I don't know why people are hype up Mickey Loomis. I think Mickey Loomis is terrible. Not only does he not know how to draft very well, and he's also just crazy with the way that he manages the cap. And that's a big part of being a really good GM, is sustained success, right? Being able to consistently be good at that. And I think George Payton's done a phenomenal job. I think Sean Payton probably gets all the credit, but he shouldn't, because George Payton, he's driving a lot of these decisions, and he's able to kind of hold Sean Payton at bay too when it comes to maybe him wanting to do something that might not be necessarily the most responsible. So I think George Payton's fantastic.
Well, it appears that I'm kind of on the outside here, but I gotta kind of back up what I'm about to say. So
Yes.
I'll give him a C+. And here's why. I am happy he is our GM. I am happy that he is, he has built what he has with the Denver Broncos, but it's really hard for me. If you were to go to a doctor and be like, all right, this guy has done all the right things. His staff loves working for him. He did something very unpopular initially, alluding to the Sertan Fields thing. But when you botch two of the biggest surgeries in history, and that is the limited sample we have of him as a GM in a vacuum of the Denver Broncos throughout his own tenure, then that's just what I got to go off of. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm just being completely honest. That being said, once again, I can respect him as our GM. I can respect, once again, I'm happy he is our GM. I do think he is the upper tier of NFL GMs, but you think back to last offseason when everybody was saying, oh, we have one of the least talented rosters in the NFL. I know that a lot of people were really mad about PFF for saying that, but guess what? You go back onto Broncos Twitter and Broncos Reddit at that time, that was started from our own fan base. And it looked like, after that season, we didn't have a lot of talent. And it did take a little bit for the visions to come to fruition, especially with guys like Benito and Moss and whatever. But the reason I give him a C+, for all the faults that he has, and he's made everything right. Like, we do a great job of structuring contracts now with the Gregory thing. The Hackett thing, I just don't know how a guy that incompetent slips through the cracks. And given the fact that trading for Aaron Rodgers may have been even worse for us than Russell Wilson and bringing out all the trash cans that he wanted, like Lazard and Cobb or whatever, may have been even worse for us than trading for Russ, then yeah, that's how I'm feeling. But why do I give Payton a C+? I give him a C+ because this past year, we were still feeling the effects of the Hackett hiring and the Russ trade because we lost 3 years of first-round picks and 3 years of second-round picks due to this. And we put a lot of eggs into a few guys' baskets like Dulcich, Javante, Locke, and Sternad because we didn't have resources to go out and make moves there. So just based on the fact, and I do think I got to respect Payton for being a part of the culture turnaround, but even then, that didn't really start until Sean Payton was in this building as well. So I could easily see myself, next offseason giving George Payton a lot of credit, credit to him for all the wrongs that he's made right with this team. That's what I was trying to say. But overall, yeah, that's just what I'm trying to say. I don't hate him or anything like that. Last offseason on my Kodiak NFL channel, I was like, we got to fire this dude. I'm not there anymore. We can keep him. He's a great team with Sean Payton. I want both these guys here for as long as possible. But yeah, that's how I'm feeling. And I felt like that would be interesting to ask you guys how you felt because that's how I feel.
I love it.
It does feel like when you just had one or the other, if you had just Sean Payton and then nobody watching the checkbook, it could go bad. And if you have just George Payton, it could go bad. But I think it's the mixture of those. It's like one's the gas, one's the brakes, and you can't win a race without either one of those two things. And I think it's the two together that's really brought this team along. But he was a part of the hiring process for Sean Payton, so you got to give him some credit for that. I mean, obviously, it's the ownership ultimately is making that decision, but they're taking that under advisement. But again, like, there's so many franchises that are bottom feeders forever. And to make those mistakes and still get pulled out of it because of you're able to navigate around those, what could be quicksand for other franchises. I just got to give credit for that.
Yeah, 100%. And I completely respect that about both Sean and George.
I don't know what this Catholic Church scandal thing that Eli is talking about.
Oh, it was with the Archdiocese. That was with the owners.
The Bensons. Yeah.
Yeah, the Bensons. Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about
the Saints.
The Mickey Loomis. Okay, I got you.
Yeah. It had nothing to do with Mickey Loomis.
Yeah, Kodiak. Maybe we'll do a separate video talking about arguing about George Payton. That'd be fun.
That'd be awesome. I would love that.
You're wrong. It'll be like a new first take.
Yeah,
exactly.
Sorry, guys. I got to wrap this up. I'm sorry I'm being a little bit, I'm the one having to cut this short, but I just wanted to thank, everybody for tuning into our show, the Horsepower Hour. Mark came up with I think the name right. Jeremy, you came up with all the graphics. It's beautiful. So please be sure to tune in next Tuesday. And also, nobody's getting traded yet. It's only good news today until we hit training camp, baby. That's what we do with mini camp. So, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week. And as always, go Broncos.
Go Broncos.
Go Broncos,
Peace out.
baby.
God bless Bo Nix. That's sacrifice. He's grabbed and he's going to be sacked.